What do you think is the best way to cook a steak? I've taken 3 ribeyes and prepared them 3 different ways. We're going to eat each one and figure it out. We're using 2-inch pieces of meat and they're quite nice.
And here you're searing it first and then putting it in the oven and then searing it and then just relying entirely on the pan.
This is the traditional pan fry and then put it in the oven to finish it off. I just seasoned it with salt and pepper. You don't want to do too much to it because if you've got a really nice piece of meat, you want to eat what you pay for. You don't really want to mess with it.
So you're creating a crust and then reaching a doneness in the middle that you prefer.
Right. I think in terms of margin of error, pan frying and then putting it in the oven is the most difficult. And you pan sear the steak, but you don't cook it all the way. And then you put it in the oven to raise the temperature of the middle. And then you have to take it out of the oven and let the steak sit for about 10 minutes. With all those steps, it's very easy to overcook your steak if you're not careful.
Right. Well, this one you just have a much larger area of well-doneness around the exterior. Mmm, steaky. Let's eat these steaks. You're not gonna wait for me? It's very rude.
I guess we can only really tell once we cut all of them.
Let's dive into the pan fry.
Pan fry, according to Gordon Ramsay on YouTube, is the best way to cook a steak. And that's probably the way to go if you're using a 1-inch piece of meat.
Being done in the pan for a little bit longer, there's a harder caramelization of the fat, and that may be having a slight effect on the flavor.
I don't have a meat thermometer at home. They kind of intimidate me. I don't like poking the meat. If you're straight pan frying it, you can touch it and you can feel how well it's cooked. I think the edges of this one are crispier, yet the inside feels more tender. This also tastes juicier.
I think I prefer this one. I think this one has a more delicious texture. The sear and then oven, that well done perimeter really has an effect on the overall texture, and I don't think it's better.
I spoke to a few steak connoisseurs. They were very adamant that if you're not grilling it, reverse sear is the best way to go.
How do you reverse sear?
You take the steak and you season it and you put it in the oven at a low temperature and then you sear it for about a minute each side. It's in the oven for 40 minutes, so you're taking a lot of the moisture out of the surface. So it looks like it's a harder crust.
You're raising its temperature so slowly, there's a greater window for you to check it and get it right.
The reverse sear method, you don't really need to let it sit because it's done cooking. The entire steak is evenly cooked.
Right, easier way to get the best result most of the time.
If you don't have a meat thermometer, I think it's a little trickier.
One thing I notice about the reverse sear is that the transition to pink is a lot smoother.
This one feels richer, like a wealthy person would have this. This is medium rare the whole way, except for the crust. Whereas here you got a lot more variation. It also looks like a bullseye almost. The reverse sear is more refined. This is like a cowboy, and this is the Great Gatsby.
So do you fancy yourself a cowboy or the Great Gatsby?
I'm more Great Gatsby.
I think I'm a little more cowboy. Cowboy just seems lower effort. I think both the pan-seared and the reverse sear are better than the sear and then oven. But I don't know that I could say that that one of these is clearly better than the other. I don't think I would be disappointed with any of them, really. Yeah. It's only eating them back to back that I notice a difference. You hold your fork weird.
Oh, yes!